up-and-coming Latino in American politics here today, and I actually get to meet him. I always read about him, but it's really cool to actually sit next to that person that you see as the next superstar coming up. So for those of us that aren't really familiar with Julian's background, he ran for city council. First of all, I have to say, make this connection. He went to Harvard, okay? And I have a stepson who's going to Harvard Medical School. So I kind of feel like, wow, that's really cool that both of them went to Harvard, and he's, you know, of course, very accomplished attorney that then came back home to San Antonio, ran for the city council, and became the youngest city council member in the city. Then in 2009, he runs for mayor and wins his election as mayor, becomes a leader globally, not just nationally, but globally on urban development. And then in 2014, he becomes the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. In 2010, though, they name him, Time Magazine names him top 40 under 40 in American politics coming up. And so, I mean, that's the first time I ran for election, so I mean, I was like, wow. It's role models like Julian that make Latinos feel like, yes, it is time, we can do this, and we need to make sure that our voices are at the table as well. And so he has been, I think he can share more about Home Connect, a program that he and President Obama made sure to give communities that didn't have internet or broadband access, the access to that, and he is one of the people behind that program. He might want to share a little bit about it. And so in October of 2015, he endorsed Hillary for president, and that's why he's here to talk to us today. So thank you so much.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Assemblywoman Diaz, for hosting us. Thank you, Michelle, and to everyone with the Clinton campaign. Thank you all for having me. It's good to be back in Nevada. I've been to Las Vegas several times for work, but I have to say that this is extra fun to be here to support somebody that I believe in. Just a little bit about myself. I have a twin brother, Joaquin, and Joaquin and I grew up in San Antonio, Texas, and Joaquin is in Congress. He always says that the way to tell us apart is that I'm a minute uglier than he is. But I'm actually a minute older.
Well, Jonathan can relate because he has a twin too.
Oh, all right. There you go. Then are you older or younger? By how many minutes? 2 minutes. Okay. And so it's a great relationship, a special relationship. But we grew up mostly with my mother and my grandmother. And my grandmother had come from Mexico when she was about 6 years old. She and her sister had been orphaned. Their parents passed away, and they had to come into the United States to be with extended family. And so they came through Eagle Pass, Texas in 1922, and they ended up in San Antonio. And she ended up dropping out in elementary school. Her family took her out of school to help them. And because of that, she worked her life as a maid, a cook, and a babysitter. She raised my mother as a single parent, and my mother became the first in her family to graduate from high school, and then she went on to college and graduated from college. She raised Joaquin and me as a single parent after the age of 8, along with my grandmother. And so when I think about this election and what's at stake, I think about how many hardworking families there are out there, people that are very humble, people of good faith, folks who are just trying to make sure that they have a shot, an opportunity. And I think about my grandmother and my mother. I also think about my own life. My brother and I went to the public schools of San Antonio. My father actually was a teacher for 31 years in the public schools. But we graduated, Joaquin and I graduated in 1992, and I remember, and I shared this when I was here in March for the state party event, I remember getting the acceptance packet to college, and that it was April 3rd, 1992, and we had never been to go visit colleges. We had never been to Stanford, which is where we got in, and the that college costs about $28,000 a year per person. And my mother, the year that we applied, had made about $20,000, $19,000 to $20,000. And my grandmother was getting a few $100s a month in a Social Security check. And so there was no way that they could afford to send us to college. The only way that I was able to go was, we had worked hard and done well in school, but there were Perkins loans and there were Pell Grants, and we did federal work study. And I really believe that this country has been at its best when we match that hard work of our families with real opportunity. And we think about what's happened in the last few years. When the president started off in office in this country, we were losing over 700,000 jobs a month. That's what our economy was doing. It was going straight down. And now, 7 years later, we've had 69 straight months of private sector job growth, which is the longest streak in our nation's history. And our unemployment rate that was going past 7% is now at 5%. I know, and y'all know better than I do, of course, how states like Nevada were hard hit during that economic recession, and everything that it's taken, all of the hard work of folks out there to come back, and the work that still needs to be done. So the question for us, and the reason that I'm supporting Hillary, the question for us is, how do we build on that progress and make sure that we continue to move forward so that more of our families can reach their dreams? The next president is going to have to do two things in our country. Going to have to keep us safe with the way the world is today. There's no question about that. And secondly, is going to have to spark greater opportunity so that more of our young people can go to college and finish it and be able to reach their dreams. More of our families, when they work 40, 50, 60 hours a week, they can actually get a good wage so they can provide for their families. And that we begin to reduce the income inequality that exists in our country right now. So that's why I believe that Hillary's plan for College Compact to make college more affordable for our young people so that they can get in and that they can complete college and not be loaded up with so much student debt that they can't go out and buy a home, they can't get their head above water. Her plan will help make sure that they're able to reach their dreams. It's why I believe that, especially y'all see in a place like Nevada, it's so important that we raise the minimum wage, that we provide a good wage for folks, that we support labor, because unions have been a ticket to the middle class for generations, and we need a president that is going to continue to support the concerns of labor, especially in this 21st century when you have so many folks at the state legislative level and in the federal government that are listening to the whispers of a very small set of folks who really have very little regard for employees. They want to soak every bit of profit that they can for a small group of folks. Y'all have some spectacular examples, I think, of that in this state, without naming names. But Hillary has a broad vision for success in our country and making sure that if folks work hard, that everybody gets to share in success and provide for their families. It's also, I think, important that we recognize that if we're going to compete in this 21st century global economy, that we need everybody to do well and everybody to have a shot in our country. That's why on issues like immigration reform and DACA and DAPA, she has said that she will support the president's executive orders. Just this past week, the Supreme Court said they're going to take up the issue of DAPA, which essentially breaks down to a lot of the parents of our dreamers. It is crucial. That's going to be a crucial decision that the Supreme Court makes. And we need an administration that's going to figure out if it's upheld, how do we continue it? If it's not upheld, then how do we make sure that we're doing something else that is feasible to protect those folks who are here and who are hardworking and who are just trying to get by and provide for their families. And she supports comprehensive immigration reform. I know that has been very hard. There was bipartisan support for that in the Senate, but they wouldn't let it get to a vote in the House. The next president is going to have to put everything that they can into getting a vote for comprehensive immigration. And Hillary is committed to doing that. And so when we think about who's going to create greater opportunity for our families as president, it's very clear that Hillary Clinton is the one who's going to do that. And I have a 6-year-old daughter who's about to turn 7. Who sometimes I think she's about to turn 16.
I know that feeling.
Yeah.
I know that feeling.
I read somewhere that she thinks that you work with President Obama, right? That's her
yeah, that's
understanding of
her.
your title.
Yeah, but you know how the kids are today, on on the phones and the iPads. You give it, they know how to use it better than we do.
Yes, they do.
A lot of times. And I have a 1-year-old son. He just turned 1, Christian. And I want for them what all of us want for our kids. I want them to go to a good school. I want to know that, if they work hard in school, that they're going to have a chance to go to college and complete college, because a lot of our students, they go, but they don't end up completing it. And, Hillary has talked about completion, not just getting into college. And then that they have a job market out there where they can do an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. And I think that's basically been the American dream. And that's what the plans that Hillary has laid out amount to. So thank y'all for having me. And I'd love to kind of hear the questions and also the concerns that folks have that y'all have seen